My parents had just gotten divorced, and things were a little rocky. My dad, I think, as a way to kind of get us back close, said, "Why don't you come with me on the cop's father-son fishing trip to Canada?" And I think I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I'd been fishing maybe once or twice, bluegill or sunfish at the local pond. And I guess I thought in my mind's eye, I kind of romanticized it, right? I'd be out there with my dad, casting, and all of a sudden this big fish would get a hold of my line, and I'd haul that thing in. And, we got up there driving through the night, and what it really was like, this is what I had in my mind's eye, but let me tell you what it was really like. We got up at like 4 in the morning, and it was still dark out, and I'm shivering in the boat because it's cold. And we're out there in the water, and I got my line in there, and it's the first half hour, and then it's the second half hour, and then it's the second hour. And are we going in yet? No? All right, well, finally, I reel back, and I haul one off, and I got something. And I hear behind me, "Scotty, don't jerk that rod, hey." And I turn around, and there is Mr. Seabour, my dad's partner, with my lure right in what my daughters call the no-no square. Whatever you do, don't jerk that line. Okay. True story. I don't think this is what Jesus was envisioning when he said, "Get fishers of men." Now, I caught one, but that is not what Jesus is talking about. Maybe it was. That was the first thing I caught on the fishing trip. I did catch a fish after a while. I did catch several fish, but I'll never forget that moment. I don't think either will Chuck Seabour. But anyway, all of us in life are fishing for something. For some of us, our pursuit or what we're after, what we're fishing for is our career. We put hours and energy into getting ahead, whatever that advancement looks like, a promotion, a plan for early retirement, or the life we envision, whatever dollar amount, or prestige in the position, or simply the culture of the career advancement because we like what we do, but we pour ourselves in and cast our nets into something there, hoping to find meaning. For some of us, it's fishing for, Valentine's Day is coming up, fishing for companionship, for relationship, for romance, or just, I don't want to be alone anymore. And when you're single and you're going through the dating life or the now it's mostly online, that is a tough world to navigate. I get an amen here or there for any of you who are there. That is not easy. And it is often a lonely road and a painful one at times. Some of us are fishing for value, whether trying to prove ourselves to our parents or to our coaches or to ourselves. But in every instance, trying to fill what is at first on the surface of life with something deeper, some deeper meaning. When you go fishing, one thing I do know is fishermen always have a plan. First of all, what are we trying to catch? What you fishing for? If you're going today and you're an individual fisherman, if you're going for walleye or trout or bass, you're using a specific different kinds of lures. Some are on the surface, some are poppers, some are sinkers. But you're using different things to catch or draw different fish. In the same way in life, we have a plan for what we are fishing for what we hope to have. Now, Simon has been a fisherman since he was knee-high to a grasshopper with his dad and his partners, sons of Zebedee, James and John, brothers. They're fishermen too. So they know a thing or two about what it is to go fishing. They know what kind of temperature or climate is good and what time of day is good to fish and not, when conditions aren't so good. And today, in this text, it hasn't been such a good night. They've been fishing throughout the night, 7, 8 hours, and their nets are empty. They've caught nothing. They come back to shore. They are bone tired. They've had enough. They are cleaning their nets. It's like those folks that work in the food industry, and you're getting ready to shut down the kitchen, and all of a sudden you got 10 minutes to go. You're breaking down the lines. You're cleaning the floors and the pots and pans and all the dishes. And then a party of like 12 comes in and says, oh, is the kitchen still open? I see it's like 9:50 and the kitchen closes at 10. Can we just order a few things? And then next thing you know, you're breaking everything back out, and everybody who was just getting ready to go home is like, oh, okay, all right, well. These guys are tired. They're reluctant. Jesus comes with an entourage, a crowd of people who want to hear what he's got to say. These guys want to go home. They want to get some food. They want to get, I hope, maybe a bath. Fishing stinks. They want to get into a warm bed. And here, all of a sudden, every Dick, Joe, and Mary show up with Jesus, and he says, hey, can I borrow your boat for a few minutes? There's too many people here to stand and teach them on the shore, so can I go out and teach them from your boat? Okay, all right, yeah. So, doesn't tell us what Jesus says to this crowd. Doesn't tell us if the fishermen were paying attention or they're still busy cleaning their nets. But they're thinking, all right, like maybe some of you on a day I go a little long, when's he going to finish this up so we can go home to bed? And when Jesus finishes and the crowd start to leave, they think, okay, great. All right, can still get home from Matlock. And he says, I want to go fishing. Really? Yeah. Can't we you want to just throw the nets over? No, let's go out in the middle of the lake. Go out to the deep water. Okay, all right. Yeah, throw your nets over here. Let me just stop you right there. I know that you work with your dad as a carpenter. I've been fishing a time or two. We've been fishing all night. We haven't caught anything. Yeah. Put your nets over here. All right, if you say so. They throw their nets in. Now, what's the goal of fishing? If you're a fisherman by trade for life, what's your goal? What's your plan? Catch fish. You need fish, have a happy life. Your kids and your spouse, eat. You have stuff to buy, other food or things to fix your house. But you need fish. They haven't had any. The nets start to break. There's so many fish. Then, realizing they've got some big haul here, they whistle over to James and John in the other boat. Hey, guys! They pull the nets on. The boats start to sink. This is not an everyday, ordinary catch. This isn't even a good catch. This is a legendary, miraculous catch that doesn't happen. Boats sinking, 2 boats sinking? This is ridiculous. Where'd all these fish come from? We've never seen anything like this. And in the moment, Peter realizes this is not normal. And he has a life-changing experience. God has met him on this boat. This is not just fishing anymore. Let me put this in this perspective for you. If my goal as a fisherman is to catch fish, and I've caught more fish than I've ever caught in my life, and I've hit the lotto in fishing, why on God's good name would I say, okay, I'm going to leave all this behind. Where are we going? You're going to leave all this fish? Yeah, the kids can clean it up and process it. I bet they love that. What do you mean you're leaving with this rabbi? What do you mean you're going on the road with Jesus in this good news preaching that he's doing? You're not a preacher, Simon. Andrew, talk some sense into your brother. What do you mean you guys are leaving? Yeah, something happened on that boat. We got to go. Skylar read from the first text, the other reading, the Old Testament reading about the prophet Isaiah. And I know it's coming out of the blue. It's just kind of a piece of the text of Isaiah pulled out, so it's hard to hear it without any context. It says, in the 50th year of King Uzziah, when he died, Isaiah has this image of the throne room of God. Now, let me put some context on that. This king has ruled Israel for 50 years. We've got a president for 4 or 8 years. 5 decades. This guy has been the leader and a good king of Israel. All of a sudden, there's a huge question mark. What's going to happen to our nation? Who's going to lead us now? Is the king's kid any good? Is he up for this? And in a time, my brothers and sisters, in the last, decade of election cycles, I'm sure some of us have asked, where are we headed? Is this leader any good? Do I like this leader? Do I like either of these choices? Where are we going as a nation? What are we going to do? I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. Does that reside with any of you? Touch any nerves? And Isaiah's in a little bit of a panic. What is going to happen to us? And I want you to see this. What is his vision? Who's going to rule the throne of Israel? Well, he has a vision of a throne. And it's God who sits on the throne. As if to say, hey, relax, kid. I know you're worried about whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. I know you're worried about who this new king is going to be. But who is king of this whole thing? Who's got Israel? Who's got you? And like Simon, Isaiah has this God moment. He says, I'm an unclean man. I said dirty words amongst dirty people. My mom has to wash my mouth out with soap. I can't be this close to God. Get somebody else. It's the same reaction Simon has, curiously, in the boat. When the boat's about to sink and he says, Lord, go away from me, I'm a sinful man. Do you know the things I've said on the fishing boat? Do you know the kind of thing? And how many of us do this? When we're in church or we're thinking to ourselves, I'm not a good person. I've screwed up. I've messed up. You got me confused with somebody else, God. And here's the thing that I think a lot of us need to hear today. At no point, despite anything you or I have done or failed to do, is God going to say, yeah, I just can't work with you. Sorry. Next. Let me say that one more time. At no point, based on any failings, screw-ups, sins, any self-deprecation you have, any no, I shouldn't have done it, any Wayne's World, we're not worthy, is God going to say, yeah, you're right, forget it. I made a mistake. Get me somebody else. God uses Noah, who's got a drinking problem. God uses Abraham, who's got a lying problem. God uses David, who has a wandering eye. All these folks are flawed. People like you and me. And God says, hey, you're my plan. Come and see what life can be if you trust me to lower your nets into the deeper waters of life. I am quite sure that Nelson Mandela did not plan or envision that he would one day be the leader of South Africa, especially having grown up in apartheid as an angry young ANC radical. But he had a God moment in Robben Island prison that changed him, changed his life forever. I am quite sure that the 5 Downers Grove South and North high school girls who volunteered here at PADS pre-pandemic, washing the pads, sweeping the floors before high school, did not envision that in that God moment of interacting with neighbors they had not otherwise met at PADS, that God would speak to them as they lowered their nets and say to them, this pandemic has hit and I have children who are out on the streets who are not getting anything to eat and had no place to sleep. And so these 5 high school girls start talking to each other and decide, we are called to go do something. Let's get our families together and start bringing meals to folks in the parking garage and in the train station. And out of that response comes a church response for showers and community kitchen. So to my confirmands and to my other adults who say, I'm too young, I'm just a kid, I'm a junior high kid. Yeah, so were they. So were they. Peter says, Lord, get away from me. I can't do, I'll be of no use to you. He says, Peter, lower your nets here and see. See what God might do in your life to change the world. There's a Catholic priest named Henry Nouwen. Henry Nouwen taught classes on religion to students in the Ivy League schools, the best of the best, Yale, Harvard, Princeton. He taught them about God. High intellectual thought processes about the different face of the world. And then Nouwen had this God moment out on his boat. And it led Nouwen, who had taught all these brilliant minds, to go to those with mental disability at the L'Arche community, people with severe retardation, people with severe mental disability, to learn about God from them. The teacher became the student in a very unexpected place. A reporter from the Wall Street Journal went to go interview Nouwen to ask him about this radical shift from the Ivy League to a special needs school. And he's looking and he asks the secretary office, where is Professor Nouwen? They said, he's down the hall. He's just down by the washrooms. And he goes down and he sees underneath the stall some feet hanging out and somebody's working on a commode. And he says to what he imagines to be the janitorial staff, excuse me, sir, can you tell me where Professor Nouwen is? And Nouwen pokes his head out from under the stall and says, yes, I'm right here. You see, sometimes I think we have to have a burning bush moment or feel like we have to be Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King Jr. We have to be up here to the saints as we envision them. And except we don't realize that one day they all had to start from somewhere, and they didn't envision themselves being where they would be except by the grace of God. They had their God moments. Simon, Andrew, James, and John can't go back to fishing the way they used to. Their lives are forever altered. They have to respond in a new way. So I'll ask you again, what are you fishing for in your life? Has this one, this fisher of men, called you into the deeper water? The answer is yes. How do you get there? Now, I know I've used this analogy once before, and I apologize for those of you who have heard it. 2 boys, brothers. One, hyper-vigilant, very straight-laced, always stays within the rules and guidelines, and very black and white and yes and no's. The other boy's a little more wild, a little more reckless, a little more carefree. They do an experiment with the 2 brothers. The first boy, they invite into a room, they give all these brand new toys. They say to the boy, we want you to go play all you want and enjoy yourself. But the boy stays stock still. Those aren't my toys. I might break them. And mom hasn't said I could play with them, so I'm just going to stand here and wait. The other boy, they take into a room full of horse manure. And the boy starts to dig, facing the manure, poo flying everywhere. And they said, what are you doing? He says, well, there's got to be a pony somewhere in here with all this poo. Now, there's two different ways to approach life. One is to play it so safe and careful, to never take any risks. But if we're to follow Jesus, we got to kind of get down in it. Because there's always something that we haven't seen that God has in store. A radical transformation into something beautiful. These guys were fishermen. They had no idea what it was to preach a sermon, do a Bible study, or anything like that. They didn't have any qualifications. They didn't have any degrees. It didn't matter. Jesus says, just come follow me. Come and see. And I'll fill that void with something, that net that's been empty, with something you've never had before. Will you come? Let's go fishing. Amen.